Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trophy Gold, Hester's Mill on the Gauntlet. My name is Mike. I will be your GM tonight, and my pronouns are he, him. A little bit about myself. I've been playing with the Gauntlet for about 2 years now, GMing on the Gauntlet for about 9 months. I've been kind of gotten into the routine of running Thursday night monthly series. So this is my third one of those. So far, it's been a lot of fun. I've been playing role-playing games for a very long time. I started when I was in middle school back in the early 80s. A lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Even back in the beginning, I was not just a D&D player. Even back in the 80s, I also played Gamma World and Star Frontiers and Champions and the James Bond role-playing game and the original Phase Rip Marvel superheroes. Played a lot of D&D when I was in college in the 90s. After I got out of college, I got out of D&D for nearly a decade. Mostly played GURPS, played a lot of Champions, played a lot of Amber Diceless role-playing. Got back into D&D when 3rd edition hit, and played D&D and GURPS through like the aughts, and then this Pathfinder role-playing game hit in like 2010 or so. And I dove into Pathfinder head first, and that's pretty much all I played for really like the next 5 years. Until my last Pathfinder game broke up, and I got invited to play this indie game called Dungeon World. And Dungeon World opened my brain in a new way, such that I totally approach role-playing games in a very different manner. And ever since then, I've mostly been playing indie games, story games, and a little bit of OSR. Which meant that the Gauntlet was really, really up my alley. When I discovered the Gauntlet, I just kind of jumped in with both feet. I've been playing online for a while, even pre-COVID, although I'm certainly playing more online now than I have ever have in my past. Looking forward to playing. Enough about me. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? Let's go left to right as I see your faces on my Zoom window here. So, Mark, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Mark Hoover. I'm a student of D&D in the same way. Started off in the very early 80s and kind of branched out from there. Played a lot of different games. I'm a face rip guy as well, but I also delved into White Wolf, GURPS, Cyberpunk 2020, a lot of different 80s and 90s games. Stuck with 2nd edition D&D straight up until 3rd edition came out. Was a late adopter of 3rd edition D&D, but then once I got into that, it was pretty much just Marvel, White Wolf games, Rifts, and D&D 3rd edition for the longest time. But then I moved right after my kids were born and moved out of state. So I lost all my gaming friends and sort of lost that gaming network. And that was right around the same time that Pathfinder was just about to come out. So when I moved, I didn't really have any outlet for gaming, got into a circle of board gamers, and one guy in that circle was transitioning from 3.5 D&D over to Pathfinder. And since about 2009, I've just been playing Pathfinder straight through. So this will be my first foray out of Pathfinder or D&D. I have played 4th edition and 5th edition D&D, but aside from that, this is my first branch out. And I met Mike on those forums and heard some of his stories about, the Dungeon World and some of the other more story-based games. And that's why I was the first one to jump on that invite. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Welcome. Bryant, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so I sense the 80s gamer theme going on here. I also started gaming in sort of the late-ish 80s. I'm the weirdo who didn't start with Dungeons and Dragons. I actually started with Tunnels and Trolls, which worked out well because there was that whole raft of solo adventures. Played, a little bit of pretty much everything through the 80s and 90s. A lot of Feng Shui. Actually did a little bit of freelancing for Atlas. Lots and lots of White Wolf, etc. got into the Forge during sort of the early days of the Forge. That was my real introduction to indie games, unless you count Amber, which I think there's a plausible argument to be made there. And have been playing pretty much everything ever since. Relatively new to the Gauntlet. Signed up for a bunch of the Gauntlet Online Con games, a couple of weekends ago. Really enjoyed it. Got deeper into the community, and I think this is the first mainstream community game I've played. So really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Welcome. Glad to have you aboard. Yeah, I GM'd a bunch of games at GCOG back in October. I was in so many games. I don't actually remember who was in all of them.
I signed
so
up for one of your Swords of the Serpent team, but then I realized that I wasn't going to be good for anything at 6 o'clock in the morning my time. I'm out on the West Coast.
Got it. And Abe, would you introduce yourself?
Yep,
please?
I'm on the early 80s RPG bandwagon too. I started off with basic and moved up to first edition. Played that for a while. Was really into RuneQuest. I think second edition RuneQuest. That was probably my favorite system at the time. Then I quit for a really long time. I would hop around and kind of jump back in and look at stuff, but I never got really involved. But I had Call of Cthulhu. I had all the Chaosium stuff like Stormbringer, Call of Cthulhu, and then I dipped out, came back in for like Paranoia, and then I think I stopped for a second at Warhammer and was like, yeah, I'm good. And then like the FRP, the Warhammer role playing, and up like over the last year, I just kind of got back involved in just checking role playing games out, and there's all this like cool indie shit going on like OSR, and then I joined Gauntlet, and now I'm like a total PBTA convert. It's my favorite system. So that's my background. I'm glad to be here, and I'm stoked to be on Gauntlet.
Fantastic. Okay. Before we go any further, just I'm going to talk a little bit. Just first, wanted to talk. So for those of us that don't have a lot of experience with playing online, just one brief thing about online gaming etiquette. Basically, if you're not talking, if you could keep your mic on mute, that way we don't hear like dogs barking in the background or your kids arguing or a motorcycle driving by. So that's that. So let's talk a little bit about this game. So this game is Trophy Gold. It was written by Jesse Ross, who is an indie game designer and a longtime member of the Gauntlet. He's also the author of the PBTA game Girl Underground, which I have a copy of. I've never actually brought it to the table. One thing I love about Trophy Gold and its sister game Trophy Dark is I think he really hit the sweet spot of splitting the difference between story games and OSR style play. And I just I find that personally really attractive because that's kind of my sweet spot, is like on the edge of old school play where you're really interacting hard with the environment, looking at things from your character's point of view, and story gaming where the game is more of a conversation and the players have a much higher degree of narrative authority, and also the PBTA underlining theme of playing to find out what happens. Let's talk about CATS. CATS is an acronym. It stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. So it's basically the elevator pitch for the game. So the concept of Trophy Gold is, in Trophy Gold, the characters are, they're desperate treasure hunters who are seeking treasure in the forgotten places of the world. Characters are driven to go into these places due to their financial obligations. And being a treasure hunter is a terrible job, but the reason but for these characters, it's pretty much their last remaining option. The other thing that underscores is that the characters in Trophy Gold are not heroes. At least they never start out as heroes. Over the course of campaign play, move in that direction. But yeah, this is a game where you're constantly pushing your luck to see if you can get that one last score before you succumb to the dangers of a place where you're really not supposed to be. Unlike its sister game, Trophy Dark, Trophy Dark is a horror game where you go into it knowing that your character is probably not going to get out. Trophy Gold is not like that. It still has horror elements. It's still a very dangerous game, but your characters have a chance to get out of it and hopefully meet your financial burdens. That's the concept. The aim. So the aim of this game is, we're going to tell an interesting story about these characters. So like learn about what makes them tick. How do you how do you meet your burdens? How does your characters drive? How do you meet your financial burdens? This game is kind of a conversation. So the other thing about Trophy Gold, as opposed to more traditional games or OSR games, is we'll be switching our focus. We'll be switching from presenting the world from the character's perspective, looking through your character's eyes, and then we'll also be jumping into the narrative, the meta, or the word in PBTA is we're jumping into the fiction. So all of you will have chances to what's the word I'm looking for? You'll all have a certain degree of narrative control, throughout the game. So, so this is a game that rewards creativity, both your character's creativity and also you as the player's creativity. Tone of this game. I'm going to go for serious. This game's going to be serious. It's going to be dramatic. There will be some horror notes and some horror elements. It's not exactly a horror game. And because I want to go for a serious tone, I'm going to ask people to maybe tone the jokiness down a little bit. Let's not delve into like a bunch of Monty Python quotes. But at the same time, humor is great to break the tension. If things get up, something seems humorous, it's in the game. It's absolutely fine to like make a joke about it, or make a joke about it or point fun at things. But humor in this game is going to do well as a way to break a certain amount of tension. But I do want there to remain some tension here, just because that's kind of the nature of the game. And finally, subject matter. So this game is going to have some dark themes. This game is going to involve some subjects like devil worship, human sacrifice. There'll be some elements of body horror, perhaps. So I don't want to necessarily get too gruesome in this, but this game's going to involve it's going to go some dark places. So that's CATS. That's concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. Any questions before I move on? Awesome. Just want to talk a little bit about the structure of how we're going to do this. So this game's going to run 3 hours. We're going to run till 11 o'clock Eastern time. So I'm planning. So we've done the introductions. I've done a little bit of an overview. We're going to have a talk about safety tools in just a moment. I'm going to do just a touch on the rules of the game so that you can make informed decisions about making your characters. Then we're going to do character generation, and then we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to touch on the rules a little more in depth so we know what we're doing, and then we're just going to hop in. Then we're going to hop into play. I'll probably also call a break about an hour before we're scheduled to end, and probably about like 5 or 10 minutes before our scheduled end, I'll probably bring the game to a pause. We'll just do a little debrief. We'll do a little debrief and feedback. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a feedback and debrief tool called Stars and Wishes. So we'll do that at the very end. Okay. So one thing that I don't trying to remember, did I send this out to you or didn't I? No, looks like I did. Okay, I'm going to pop in the chat window of our video chat here. I'm going to pop a link to a shared character keeper. So character keeper is it's a Google Docs spreadsheet. It's got a bunch of tabs, and it's basically going to be a shared character sheet that we're all going to be using. This one has tabs for each. This one will have a tab for each of the characters, and everyone. I've set this so that anyone with the link should have edit access. So I have to admit, I wanted to take some time to like recraft this character sheet because this character sheet is including a whole lot of the optional Trophy Gold Hearthfire rules, which is sort of like the downtime activity stuff. We are probably not going to engage in the Hearthfire part of Trophy Gold in a 3-game series. That's really more for campaign play. I was hoping to take some time to recraft this character keeper to put the Hearthfire stuff on a separate tab, but I just didn't have time to get one that was actually workable. If you are all, so are you all on the character keeper?
Yep.
Cool. If you could hit over to the rightmost tab, which is safety and resources, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional safety at the game table. Is everyone there?
Yep.
Awesome. Emotional safety is important when we play a role-playing game. All of us, we're a bunch of strangers that are getting together on the internet to play a game together, and safety tools are a means to ensure that we're having fun. I think all of us have been playing games for a long time, and I'm sure we can all recall times when, we encountered stuff in the game where, I, as the player, was not having a good time, whether, whether the game went in some places that was making me uncomfortable, or there was, where another player was doing something that we found kind of not cool. Safety tools are a formal way that doesn't remove all danger in a game, but it allows us to have a framework where we can talk about things. Because each of us individually is more important than this game we're playing together. And safety tools are a way that we can, if not ensure, we can try to put some bounds around these things to make sure that we are actually having fun. So the first tool we're going to be using is called Open Door. And that means we are all free to come and go as we please. We're not tied down to this game. Anyone can call a break at any time. Anyone can step away. Anyone can step away from the game at any time for any reason. And everyone has everyone is pre-approved that if you decide that this game isn't for you, and you're not having a good time, and this is just kind of not, you've decided this isn't your bag, it's absolutely fine to say that, you know what, this isn't for me, I'm out. Cool. Life's too short to play bad games. So that's Open Door. Anyone can come and go as they please. Anyone can call break. Anyone, and everyone has license to leave if this game isn't for you. The second tool that we're going to use is called the X card. The X card is a tool where you let the GM and the other players know that there's something going on in the game that you've got a problem with. So if something in the game happens that is making you uncomfortable, you can say the phrase X card. If you're on video, you can make an X gesture with your forearms or with your fingers. When you invoke the X card, you're telling us that we need to pause the game and have a chat. It doesn't necessarily mean that the GM has introduced, so it can be that the GM or one of the players has introduced an element that you don't want to deal with. All of us have different life experiences, and what may be absolutely fine for one of us is a big problem for someone else. And the X card is a way that, it's not, we don't use it vindictively. We don't use it, it doesn't mean anything bad has happened. It means that something's happening that I don't like in this game. When the X card is invoked, we'll have a little chat. We'll pause the action. We'll have a little chat. We'll figure out what needs to change in the game. You don't have to tell us why. Kind of need to know what, so that we don't step on the same thing again. We'll pause the scene. We'll have a chat. We'll remove that element. We'll rewind the scene, and we'll play out the scene again without that element. And again, this could be something that the GM has brought up. This could be something that another player has brought up. This could be that one of the other players is taking the game in a direction you don't really want to go. So yeah, X card it. Just again, it means it can be something as dumb as I introduce an NPC that's the name of a person you just absolutely can't stand at work. Like, okay, we won't call this guy. We won't call this guy, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. We'll call him something else. And invoking the X card, no harm, no foul. It just means we need to have a chat, take this out, and move on. Any questions on either Open Door or the X card? The third tool we're going to use is called Lines and Veils. This was a tool that was invented by the indie RPG designer Ron Edwards for his game Sorcerer back in the early aughts, and it's a very powerful and very useful tool. Lines and Veils are a way that we can sort of like pre-X card things before the game even starts. So you'll notice over on the left-hand columns, there's a number of topics and subject matters that some people may have an objection to and don't want to have to deal with in game. If we line something, that means this element will not occur in the game. I will not introduce it. The other players won't introduce it. If for some reason one of us accidentally does, because we forgot to look, we don't have the game, we don't have the list up, please immediately X card. If we've accidentally tripped the line or a veil, please immediately X card. I'm saying this because because there was a game I played at GCOG that I accidentally ignored a veil because there was a subject matter I was running a printed module. There was something in the printed module that had been veiled, and I just didn't make the connection, and I hadn't intended to, but I did. So please, if I do that, please go ahead and go ahead and X card it. So a line is something that will not occur in the game. A veil is something that we can acknowledge happens in the game, but it will not happen on camera, and it won't happen to one of the PCs. So if you veil something, we can acknowledge it exists. We may find evidence that it happened in the past. We may find records of it. Someone might tell you that it happened at some point, but it's not going to happen on camera. It's not going to be explicit. Or if it's something that's not necessarily bad, we'll just fade to black and imply stuff. I have already, here's an opportunity to, if you'd like to go ahead and put check marks in on any of those items, or if you want to add topics that you want to either line or veil. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here to make some changes. I've already put I had already put the things that I want to line and veil. Please don't unline anything that was veiled. Please don't remove a check mark. If you want to move something that was lined to if you want to move something that was veiled to a line, that's absolutely fine. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm pretty, generally speaking, I'm generally not okay with slavery in game. Like it's usually a line. I mean, do you have big plans for?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't, and I copied this from an earlier iteration, and yeah, forgot to check that one.
No, that's fine. I just didn't. I don't know if you were planning on like making the bad guys super bad.
Nope.
Like Conan style.
Nope.
But all right, cool.
And if I had been, I would do something to. If I had been, and you lined it, I would change what I was planning.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
give everyone a couple of minutes. Give everyone a little bit more time if you want to. If you give me a thumbs up or hit the thumbs up reaction at the bottom when you're ready, we'll move on.
I'm good. I don't know where the reaction is, but I'm ready to go.
Okay, got it. Yeah. If you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the window to like pop up some extra things, well, like way over on the right, there's a reactions button, and you can you can click something so like the thumbs up comes down. There's not very many of them, but
Yeah, I don't have it on mine for some
I
reason.
have it on yours. Oh, are you on a I'm not
I'm
sure if it's there if you're using like a tablet or something like that.
Yeah, I'm on a Windows machine. It just says invites, record, and then audio settings on the other one, but it's fine. Whatever.
Okay. I don't know. Weird. It's possibly you're on another version. If we're good, cool. So that's safety. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the game itself, about the rules of the game, Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold is a game that kind of splits the difference between OSR, old school Renaissance style play, and modern story games. So in this game, it's when your character's like interacting with the world, it's going to be more or less OSR. There is no perception check, for example. There's no like for those of you who play play D&D, there's no perception check. There's no spot check. For those who play Dungeon World, there is no discern realities move. If I've got I've got basically an outline of this adventure that we're running. It's just a sketch, but there are some things that are spelled out. So, for example, if if you're in a room and you're poking around a room looking for something, and I know that there's a chest with a false bottom in it. You need to do something to tell me that you're like poking around the chest, like looking for a false bottom, because there's no perception check that you roll that'll just give it to you. So you've got to interact with. So then, like going back to like early versions of D&D, you got to do the thing in order for it to happen. Like you're not going to find the secret door just by noticing the secret door. You got to like tell me how you're like tapping around, or or tell us what you're doing with the weird glowing idol, to make it trigger the magical effect. So that's one thing. That's one thing that's more of a nod toward OSR style play. And another thing is, please absolutely use the environment. That's using the environment and using the things that are around you is actually really important in this game. At the same time, this game has a high level of abstraction. When we're in the game, so for one thing, your character will have a burden. Your burden represents your financial obligations. You must come back with enough gold that equals or exceeds your burden when you come back to town after an adventure. If you don't, your character's debtors have caught up with you, and your character must retire. So if you have like burdens 3, you have to come back with at least 3 gold to pay off your burdens, or else your character does not continue. So that's one mechanic. There's basically only 3 roles in this game, and the one that you're going to be doing most of the time is called the hunt roll. The hunt roll is very abstracted. When you are interacting with the world, trying to learn things about the world, we will do a hunt roll. You'll take one dice. Trophy only uses 6-sided dice, but it makes a distinction of what the dice mean. So we'll be using dice of 2 different colors. The rules refer to light dice and dark dice, and depending on which dice you roll, that will affect the results of things. So on a hunt roll, whenever you are you know, when you're pressing deeper, or when you're trying to pursue your goal, when you're trying to interact with the world to learn more information about it, you're going to gather a small pool of dice. You take one light color die for exploring the world and asking questions. You can take a second die if you have a relevant skill or a relevant piece of equipment, or you are taking advantage of the environment in some way. You then roll the dice and you look at the highest individual number on the dice you throw. And when you do a hunt roll, your reward is what are called a hunt token. And these are completely abstract. When you gain hunt tokens, you have a choice. You can either turn one in immediately for a treasure that's worth 1 gold, or you can hang on to them. When we are working through in Trophy, we are each kind of like area of Trophy is called a set, and in each set you have a set goal, and I'll tell you what the set goal is as players. Your character might not necessarily know it, but you as the player know what the goal is, and you can achieve the set goal either by doing the thing, and like doing the thing in the fiction, in the story, to achieve the goal, or if you've had enough about this set because it's dangerous, the assembled players can pull together a total of 3 hunt tokens to solve the set goal and to be able to move on to the next one. So you need to solve the set goal in order to move on to the next set. So with hunt tokens, again, it's very abstracted. So if the highest die you roll is a 6, you gain a token. If you get a 4 or a 5, you gain a token, but you also encounter something terrible. If you get a 2 or a 3, you encounter something terrible. And if your highest die is a 1, you lose all of your current hunt tokens and you encounter something terrible. Something terrible does not necessarily mean a monster, although it could be. The next roll we're going to talk about is called the risk roll. Basically, whenever you're doing something risky, where failure has consequence, we're going to do a risk roll. And for this one, you're going to gather a small pool of dice. Take one light colored die if the task is something that you know how to do because you have a relevant skill. We'll get to skills in a bit once we get to character generation. You can take another, so if you have a skill, your occupation, your background, if you have a relevant piece of equipment, or if you're taking advantage of the environment, you can gain a light die on a risk roll. You can take another light die if you accept a devil's bargain. And we'll talk more about devil's bargains, but this is devil's bargains are kind of like is a mechanic that was pulled in from another game called Blades in the Dark. And this is a game where you, the players, really have a lot of narrative control over the world. A devil's bargain is something with consequence that is going to happen regardless of the results of the roll. So if you accept that devil's bargain, you can take another light die. And finally, if you are risking your body or mind, you can take a dark die. Again, roll the dice. So once you've assembled your pool, you roll them, and you're looking at the highest number rolled. The highest number rolled is a 6, full success. The highest number is a 4 or a 5. It's a success, but there's going to be some kind of complication or cost. And if it's your highest die is a 3 or less, then if your highest die is a 3 or less, then you are not successful, and the situation is going to get worse for you in some way. If you had not included a dark die and you don't like that, if you don't like the roll, you can add a dark die and re-roll. If you don't like that again, you can add another dark die and re-roll. the catch is if the highest number you get is on a dark die, then you compare. Then that runs the risk of hurting your character. Your character has what's called a ruin score, sort of like your hit points. Your ruin will have a minimum starting value of 1, and its highest value can be 5. Because if you get to 6 ruin, your character is out of the game. That signals the end of your character. So in some sense, you kind of only have 6 hit points. You actually have less than that. It's not exactly hit points. It's a little more abstract than that. Because you will also have things called conditions that can affect your character in some ways. That's more narrative positioning. But if your ruin will only go up if a dark die is in play. So if the highest die that comes up is a dark die, you then compare the number rolled on the dark die to your current ruin score. And if the number on the die is higher than your current ruin score, your ruin goes up by 1. Now, if that number is high, it still counts as the high number. It's just your ruin may go up. So there's this nice tension there with a risk roll. So putting more dark dice in does increase your chance of success, but it also increases your chance of your character's ultimate ruin. And finally, there's a combat roll, and we'll talk about combat roll when we actually encounter a monster. I think the combat system in this game is really cool and also really deadly. So that's like brief overview on. So you're mostly going to be doing hunt rolls in this game. You'll probably be doing a fair number of risk rolls, and generally dark dice means when dark dice are in play, there's a chance that there's a chance that your ruin may increase. That's kind of the high level overview of some of the rules of this game that I wanted to give you, just so that you can make some informed choices about your character. So if you'd like, there is a Trophy Gold random character generator. Oh, Bryant, you have a question.
Yeah, one mechanics question. Going back to the hunt roll and the sets, it's 3 collective tokens to find what we came here for. So that is always the mechanism for moving from one set to another from a mechanics point of view?
That is one way that you can move from one set to another. Is to move to a new set is by spending 3 hunt tokens. You can also find it narratively.
Okay, that was actually my question. Yeah.
Yeah, you can also find it. You can also find it narratively. I mean, I'll tell you right now. The first set that we're going to be using is called the first set. The set name is Torrens Bend. That's going to be the area of the countryside that you're in, and I will tell you the set goal will be to find the road to the lost village of Hester's Mill. It's possible to find it through like exploring the world and finding it. That tends to take longer than spending hunt tokens, and depending where you are, it may be dangerous, and you may wish to. Again, the more monsters you encounter, the more gold you may find, but also the more ruin you're going to accrue.
Yeah.
So there's always that trade-off.
Yeah, no, I love the dual mechanism. Like it gives, that makes a ton of sense.
And one other thing, I said that we're probably not going to engage the downtime mechanics, but it is possible that for whatever reason you want to leave, you want to head back home and like heal up. If you do want to head back, head back to town, we'll go over how that works and if it comes to that. But yeah, there are ways that you can heal ruin once you're back in town. Basically, you spend gold. 1 gold per ruin will decrease, and that's also a way to clear conditions. You spend a gold to clear a condition. So one other thing I briefly want to talk about is conditions. That's conditions are things that happen to your character that may be affecting you in a negative manner that don't have a direct mechanical component, but they may complicate you narratively. Like, for example, if you had the condition sprained ankle, it isn't necessarily going to affect your ruin score, but like it can affect the mechanics in that if you've got a sprained ankle, you're probably not going to be like normally you could easily sprint across you could easily sprint across an open field. But if you've got a sprained ankle, not so easy. Now it's a risk roll to sprint. Now it's a risk roll to sprint across the open field, for example. And I know I talked about devil's bargains on risk rolls. We'll get into. Oh, Mark, yes.
I just had a very quick question. I've never played an online game before. So when you're talking about the light and dark dice, is there an online mechanic for that, or should I actually have physical dice here?
If you want to roll physical dice, you can, but that's one other cool thing I was going to do.
Oh, okay.
There is a trophy gold dice roller bot on Discord. This is a link to the Gauntlet Hangouts Discord server. If you don't have does everyone have a Discord account? I meant to ask that ahead of time. I think I sent an invite out in an earlier email. If you never signed up for it, I can send another invite. If that link doesn't work for you, let me know. That should bring you right into the game room T for trophy on the Gauntlet Hangouts Discord server.
It doesn't work for me, but I'm on that server. So
you're on the server, okay.
But yeah, I open up the link and it just opens up a browser window. It says Discord, and then nothing happens.
Okay. Well, let me let's see. Let's try this. Invite people. I am by no means a Discord expert. So if you're not already a member of the Gauntlet Hangouts Discord server, that second link should open up an invitation for you.
You need to like get permissions to go to that folder, because I don't see it anywhere on the Gauntlet Publishing Discord. Got codex.
It's not the Gauntlet Publishing Discord. It's the Gauntlet Hangouts Discord.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Let me see if I have that.
But that second link should be an invite. And yeah, there's a and if we can't get this to work, I have an alternate solution. There's a shared online dice roller called Roll for Your Party that we could use instead. It's just I like this one on Discord because it's a trophy specific one that has the trophy logos on the dice, and it's got hunt, combat, and risk rolls already embedded. Was everyone able to get to the server, or are you still working on it?
Yeah, I can't get to it, but I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to do it.
Okay, that second invite link didn't work for you?
No, it just opens it up in a window and it says there's no text channels.
Weird.
The one that ends with RHR, right?
Yeah, the one that ends in RHR.
Yeah, it just says no text channels. That's like the error message. And there's no new servers in my Discord deal.
Let me check something here. Let me go to a new private window and see what happens when I go there. Okay, well, in that case, let's go to Plan B. Okay, Plan B, we're going to use Roll for Your Party. This is a shared dice roller. I used to really like it. I don't think Roll for Your Party is an active support anymore, so it's been a little wonky recently. But it's the only dice roller I've used that allows you to have dice of multiple colors on the table at once. So I'm gonna get some sixers on the table. And let's put some more sixers on the table. Okay, I got 3 dark dice and 3 light dice on the table. So basically, you can pick them up and drag them over to where you want to roll, and you click on a die, and it'll highlight in red. And then you can click the green Reroll Selected button, and it will roll, and it'll roll. And you can put them anywhere. Anyway, people get are people on the dice roller?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. We'll just use this. Yeah, we'll just use this rather than the one on the Discord, which is fine. Okay, cool. Let's head back over to the characters. Let's head back over to the character keeper. So on this character keeper, each player has their own tab. So I'm just going to go over briefly what the stuff here is. So this first section. So I'll let you each figure out who wants to be player 1, player 2, and player 3. Or I can just pick people. That might be easier. Bryant, why don't you be player 1? Abe, you can be player 2, and Mark, you can be player 3, and that is because of that is the order that you appear on my Zoom window.
Sounds good.
And you should be able. You can right-click the tab and rename the tab. Probably you'll want to change that to your character name. So we're just going to go briefly on what this character keeper is. So that first section where it says Horde, you can basically ignore that. That's part of Hearthfire, and we really won't be engaging in that. So you can pick a name. You can pick also put in your player name. Under Drive, there's a little down arrow in the box next to it, and that's going to list a whole bunch of potential drives. Go ahead and pick one that appeals to you. And your drive means this is why you are a treasure hunter. This is why you're trying to amass treasure. The way the game is set up, that you're trying to amass gold in your hoard back home. Once you get to 50 gold, then you're able to pay off all of your burdens and meet your goal. And the secret is no one's ever going to get 50 gold. Next thing you want to pick is your occupation. That's in the green section. Your occupation is going to have 3 associated skills. Skills in this game are deliberately vague and deliberately kind of nebulous. If you think that your skill will apply in what you're trying to do, go ahead and make that argument. Additionally, you'll have a background. That's what you used to do before you became that's something that you used to do in the past. That will give you a 4th skill. You can ignore the training section. That also engages the Hearthfire rules to like gain new skills. We're probably not going to do that in this game. The next thing we're going to talk about are rituals. Rituals are basically spells. This is a fantasy game, so and anyone can do magic. Couple of things about rituals. Rituals are dangerous. Knowing rituals does not do good things to your mind. For every ritual you know, your starting ruin increases by 1. Also, whenever you attempt to use a ritual, it is a risk roll. And using a ritual, by definition, risks your body and mind. So whenever you cast a ritual, you must include a dark die when you roll. Other than that, they pretty much work like spells. In fact, most of them are more or less based on spells from the BX version of D&D. And you can start with 0, 1, 2, or 3 spells. Again, look them over. They are deliberately vaguely worded. So if you want to use a ritual, basically tell us what specifically you're trying to do with it.
Is there expansion of occupations? Because I did one of those pre-gens, and the occupation and the background are not listed in the drop-down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like backgrounds, unheeded prophet, assassin is the occupation.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, it's fine. I don't care, but you know.
Oh, got it. Oh, sorry. I thought they. I didn't realize that. I thought that they were using the same. I thought they were using the same data here.
Okay.
It is not completely in accordance. I ran into this during Gauntlet Con.
Yeah, I'm running into the same thing.
You can type over them, like that just kills the automation, but
yeah, you can absolutely, yeah. If you've used one from if you've got stuff from one of the pre-gens and you want to just overwrite, then you can go ahead and overwrite. You can just type over. I didn't realize that I hadn't played around with this particular one too much, so I didn't realize that they were using different databases. That is some more feedback I will have to give the author of this. Next is backpack. Everyone's going to be starting play with a backpack. Your backpack is going to have like 3. It's going to have your backpack has 6 slots. 3 of them are filled. You can so your unfilled slots are it's sort of like Schrodinger's backpack. You can have some during the course of the game, if you want to see if you've got a piece of equipment that would be appropriate, you can fill a backpack slot with a piece of appropriate equipment that would make sense for you to have. So it's basically it's kind of like a wild card thing that that isn't defined until you need to define it. So when you have the backpack, you're going to have 3 things that are, 3 things that are definitely there. And there's also, and you've got 3 more slots of things that you can just say that you have at the time you need it. It's sort of like a bad belt. So once you have an item, once you have an open slot in your backpack, you'll then basically write in that you have this thing. If in the course of the adventure you lose an item, then you basically scratch it off. So you can have basically a max of 6 things in your backpack. You can also pick up found equipment. Found equipment you put under the found section. So if you find something cool that you want to use, you can put it in your equipment. Armor. If you want to start with armor or with armor or weapons, again, if your pre-generated character may have included some. With armor, if you have armor, you can, if you take a hit in combat, you can mark your armor off to avoid taking 1 ruin. You don't have to, but if you can say, I don't want to take that ruin, I want my armor to take it, you can then put a check mark next to that specific piece of armor, and then that means that takes the hit instead of you. And weapons, you can have weapons, and again, weapons more or less just have, I mean, they're there for fictional positioning. If you say you have a broadsword, that means you're going to have to get pretty close. Whereas if you say you have a crossbow, that means you can shoot something from far away. Every piece of armor and every weapon that you define will increase your burdens by 1. So if you want to start with, 2 pieces of armor and a weapon, cool, go for it. That means you're going into this with burden 4, which means you must come back when you return to town. You must have at least 4 gold for your character to be able to continue. It's got some stuff on household and carousing. Again, we're probably not going to be we're not going to be engaging in that.
Where do we put armor in the combat section?
Yeah, put your armor and your weapons in the combat section.
I saw some they have like armor, but they don't have weapons. It's kind of a bummer. I mean, my guy has one. My guy has it, but
yeah, I mean, if you want to say that you've got, I mean, even on the pre-gen, yeah, sometimes they come up with that ahead of time, and sometimes they don't. If you want to like say you've got armor and say you've got a weapon, go ahead and define it and just put it in there. But again, every time every piece of armor and every weapon does increase your burden by 1. So if your pre-gen didn't have any weapons or armor, but you want him to have if you want him to have a breastplate and a flail, go ahead and add that.
So I have a sword, a maul, and a shield. Does that mean that my risk goes up by 3?
Your burdens would go up by 3. Yes.
Oh, so I got to come back with 7 gold pieces if I got all that on me?
So you start at 1 burden, and for every.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's already got the burden hooked in here. It's got my burden is 4 because I have 3 items. Okay, cool.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
I was going to say I haven't played. I have to be honest. I haven't played with this character. I haven't played with this character keeper all that much because I was spending time trying to write a different one. But I'm not sure what stuff is auto calculating and what isn't. And if you are more or less done, either give us a thumbs up or type an OK in the chat window or something like that. Let me know that we're done and we can move on. But take all the time you need. We're going to take.
So I just have one question.
Please.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I just have one quick question on the character sheet.
Yeah.
I also did one of the character pre-gens, and I'm loading all that into the character sheet. And I guess the burden is supposed to auto-calculate. Is that what's supposed to happen? Because I'm only sitting at burden 1, but I've got 2 weapons and a piece of armor.
Yeah,
it's
it
for
does,
me.
that auto populates because I had the same thing, and your burden's 4, right?
Right now, it's sitting at 1.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not going up.
I just updated mine manually.
Yeah, I just fixed it manually. Yeah, sometimes the autocalcs don't work, or stuff happens. I mean, it's good. It's it's Google Sheets. It's it's like the it's like Excel circa 1994. So if we're good with characters, so are we more or less set? Awesome. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes after 9. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let's reconvene at 10 past, and then we will actually start play. Going to pause the recording, and we're back. Okay, so we have our characters. I did notice a couple of things weren't auto updating, so I made a couple of adjustments. It looks like everyone is starting at either 2 or 3 ruin, depending on how many rituals they chose, and looks like everyone's burdens are either 3 or 4, depending on how many weapons and armor they chose. Cool.
Where's the ruin?
Oh, it's under your ruin is kind of in the middle column. There's 6 checkboxes, kind of at the top middle column.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, you're just instead of it being a number, you're just kind of like checking a box.
Yeah, all good.
Awesome. There's also a Game Master tab that grabs some of the relevant information that pulls it in. So I've got a view that allows me to see all of you at once. Okay. So before we actually get started, why don't we go around the table and just do a brief introduction to our characters. Why don't we start? Why don't we just go left to right as they appear on the character keeper? So, Bryant, would you tell us of Estefan?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm playing Estefan. His pronouns are he, him. He is a battle-worn, effectively a mercenary at this point. Used to be Kingsguard, got in trouble. I'm fairly certain he is wanted by the Kingsguard for stealing the secret of how to do those particular rituals, right? Like he wasn't supposed to know that. I don't think he was looking for trouble, but it found him, so he's on his way out. That's also closely related to his drive, which is bribing people to get him off the hook for that. Relatively quiet type. I'm going to try not to play a talker this time around.
Awesome. Let's go to Abe. Would you tell us of Akela?
Yeah, Akela is currently a merchant. He was a unheeded prophet for quite a while there, and so he just gave it up to make money. Let's see. What else do we want to know about him? Just his background?
I don't know. What do you want to tell us? What do you want to tell us? What do you want to tell us about him? So just so that we have a little bit to go on.
He's pretty cynical. Like he's traded up the spiritual world for the world of commerce because he saw no future in being an unheeded prophet. and his main drive is to make money, and he can't believe he has all this burden. He's just kind of pissed about it. So,
Love it. And Mark, would you tell us of Orlin?
So I'm playing Orlin. He is an entertainer, former duelist and gladiator. Unfortunately, he was humiliated in a major bout and tossed out of gladiator school. And now out on his own has to repay his debtors and make up for his losses in another way. So he's out adventuring and trying to gather gold to resolve his burden. Also, he has a drive to become a part of the swirling court. I, the player, don't really know what that means, but that is a drive that he has. And
go on. Sorry.
And I was just going to say he's turned his gladiatorial skills into something a tad more deadly, and is now a registered assassin out plying his trade for gold.
Awesome. So, little thing about stuff about your drive just has, it may make reference to like events or things or people. None of us know what that means. We're going to figure that out and play. There's a little bit of world lore in this sort of like standard setting for trophy, sort of called the Kaldor setting. So the story thus far. So this is the history of the place. So this is the history of the place that you're going and what you know of what you're trying to do. So you are in a land called Torrens Bend. And it's named that way because it is a land of somewhat hilly, but it's somewhat hilly, but actually very fertile land that's in the bend of the Great Torren River. You're probably 3 days ride out from or 3 days journey out from the next settlement of any size at all. So the land of Torrens Bend is mostly abandoned and has been for a little over a century. More than a century ago, there was a usurper lord who ruled over this land, who was named Lord Galdrin. Galdrin was, he ruled the place with an iron fist. I mean, this is a very fertile land, and it was primarily agricultural. The land just produced large amounts of grain and fruits and vegetables, but the populace are farmers. They weren't able to really put up much of a fight when Galdrin and his army of mercenaries marched in and said, "Okay, you all now work for me." And he wasn't he was a pretty he was kind of brutal, but at the same time, he did keep the monsters at bay, and all he really wanted was taxes. So for the most part, people just continued as they were, paying their tributes to Lord Galdrin. Unfortunately, Galdrin was also a bit of a religious heretic. The people of Torrens Bend and the people of the whole land worship a kind of large and varied pantheon of saints that they collectively call the Sisters. And there are dozens, if not scores, if not even hundreds of sisters that are worshipped all over the land. Each of the sisters is generally known as the sister of or the saint of a particular aspect of life or the land. And the sister that was most revered here was Hester, who was sister of the harvest, and sister of the harvest, saint of, the saint of the bounty of the earth. So Lord Galdrin, as I said, he was a heretic, and he openly mocked the sisters. He, cared for them not at all, thought it was dumb to worship them, to the point where he went so far as to like openly mock them. He would do parodies, like blasphemous parodies of their rites. He just went out of his way to mock Hester, sort of to make fun of her, and also to make fun of these rubes that were worshiping her. So, and this is a little it's a little unclear as to why or how, but according to the histories, eventually the peasants, the people of Torrens Bend, decided that they'd haven't had enough of this heretic, so they rose up against him. The people of particularly the largest settlement in Torrens Bend was the town of Hester's Mill, and this was the center of worship of Saint Hester. And again, according to the histories, these people were religious fanatics, and eventually they rose up and they fought against Lord Galdrin, and they murdered his soldiers, and they killed him, and they burned his fort down. Now the sisters, and Hester in particular, they were not happy with the people. No, they didn't like she didn't like being mocked, but at the same time, she didn't want her worshippers killing people in her name. And so, she was so appalled by the brutality of the people of Hester's Mill that Saint Hester and the other sisters laid a curse upon the land. The curse was laid upon all of Torrens Bend, which caused the land to go fallow, and the town of Hester's Mill itself withered and faded away. The land itself eventually recovered, and the land itself seems to be fertile and bountiful again. But because of this curse, people have stayed away, and the place has not been repopulated in the 100 years since it was abandoned. So you treasure hunters are seeking out this village of Hester's Mill because no one's lived there in 100 years. The place has been abandoned, and they've just got to have left all sorts of treasures there that's just there for the finding. So a couple of things. So that's the history. So a couple of things about the game Trophy Gold. Generally, so an adventure in Trophy Gold is called an incursion, because you're going somewhere you're going into some place that's usually best left forgotten. So this incursions generally have a theme, and I'll tell you right now, the theme of this incursion is harvest. So you have taken the journey from where you started. It's been a good 3 days journey, and you have found yourself in the countryside of Torrens Bend. That is the name of the set, Torrens Bend, and your set goal is to find the road to Hester's Mill. So the region known as Torrens Bend is so named because the northern border is a semicircular bend in the Great Torren River. It is almost entirely uninhabited, despite the fact that it is among the most arable land in the nation. Its formerly bustling roads are all long overgrown, and the area has not been mapped in more than 50 years. I'm guessing that since you are so financially burdened. I'm guessing that you walked here. You've come over a hill, and you're now looking out into this valley. The sun is hanging high in the sky, golden and hot. It's early autumn, but it's one of those. It's early autumn. It's getting close to harvest time. It's just this is one of those autumn days where summer's definitely come back for one of its for one of its last hurrahs before things start to turn cold. Yeah. What do you do?
We've already all bonded, and is that the assumption?
I'm going to say, yeah. Let's say that you've been traveling together, so you know each other. You've been traveling together, so why don't you? Although I think it would be nice to know how did the three of you come to be traveling together?
So I've been bodyguarding for spare coin. I'm not looking to like grab anybody's gold, right? But as a hand wave, did one of you guys hire me to watch your back?
I'm a broke ass merchant. Yes.
There we go.
I wear much finery, but I'm broke.
Yeah, that works perfectly well.
Well, you met Orlin along the way to Hester's Mill. He was following the same rumors that you guys were, talk of treasure and whatnot. And after getting into a scuffle with, I don't know, ruffians on the road or something, and barely holding his own, you guys came along and drove the ruffians back, and realizing that I could certainly use not only traveling companions, but more knowledgeable ones than myself. I've glommed onto you because protection, basically.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So as you come across this ridge and you're looking down into this valley, it's clearly this place is not inhabited. You're not seeing any signs of smoke. You don't really see any signs of buildings. Although actually, now that you think of it, what you at first thought was just kind of like a crag of rocks that are coming up. That might actually be a stone structure that's kind of off in the distance. That's the direction you want to go in, or do you want to do some more exploring first?
Before we head in any direction, Mike, I want to look out over the horizon. I know it's been 100 years. I know that everything's probably pretty overgrown, but if we can make out the edge of what might be a stone structure, I'm going to look out across the horizon beyond that and try to see if there are any obvious lines in the horizon that might demark old fields or agrarian areas, pastures, that kind of thing.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're pressing deeper to pursue your goal. This sounds like a hunt roll. So you may take a light die for interacting with the world. Do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment that may be helping you here?
Absolutely not. I don't have any relevant skills, and I don't think a great axe is going to help me scan the horizon.
Got it. Okay. Well then, it sounds like you are making a hunt roll with. Sounds like then you're making a hunt roll with one die. So go ahead and roll a six-sided die. So to do that, I'd recommend on the dice roller, I'd recommend grabbing one of the light-colored dice, move it aside from the others. Try to keep it toward the top of the screen. Some of us may be looking at this with a smaller screen. Once it's highlighted, you can then click the green reroll selected. I can't tell if it actually rolls.
You gotta click on the button. It'll give you an orange highlight.
You gotta get,
So I've got it highlighted.
click on the die. It'll give you. Yeah, and then there's a green re-roll selected button, kind of in the center of that row button.
Okay.
If you click that. That'll roll the die.
I'm clicking it and it's not rolling anything. Oh, there it did. It looks like it deselected it and rolled a 1.
There we go. Okay. Well, rolling a 1 on a hunt token on a hunt roll means you would lose all of your collected tokens, which is fine. You didn't have any, but you did encounter something terrible.
Nope.
So you're looking at the sky. You're looking at the, so you're kind of like, so you were kind of like scanning the horizon, looking for, you see, at first what you thought might have been, like, it's off in the distance. It's kind of like past, as for agricultural fields, I will say that you've been passing through overgrown agricultural fields left and right. There's places where, there's places where, there's still clearly corn growing, although the corn's been, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. So you were, so as you were looking at the horizon and, checking to see if there were like agricultural fields, as you're like walking a little bit, you see what is clearly an overgrown cornfield. But as you're looking at it, the ears of corn on the stalks are, they're just wrong. They're like, normally you'd see ears of corn growing on the stalks, but these are like misshapen and black with like weird, like weird finger-like tendrils that are coming out of it. It's really, really, really disturbing. Kind of don't want to go in there.
Draw my battle axe. Arm myself and point it out to my fellows.
What does the field look like as far as like the corn? Does it look like old and dry? Does it look like, basically what I'm asking is, if I take a torch, can we set it on fire?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
It's late. It's late autumn. So yeah, it hasn't been too terribly rainy. Hold on, let me get you a photograph. Let's see if I can find a photo of what this looks like. Here we are. Just want to make sure this link works. Yeah, good enough. There's an image of what this corn looks like.
Ew.
Oh, super tasty.
Yeah, and as you go in there, so are you approaching this field?
Just close enough to burn it.
Bodyguard, right? Estefan, you're my
Yeah,
bodyguard.
you get in there.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're burning this. We're not getting any closer than we need to. Bodyguard
Okay.
doesn't mean manservant. We've had this conversation.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I just want to know you got my back just in case.
Yeah, sure. No, you go ahead and set that thing on fire. I will be exactly half a pace behind you.
All right.
Okay.
I'll take up a flank on the other side.
Okay, so you're lighting this on fire. What could possibly go wrong here? Yeah, well, deliberately setting fires in the wilderness, I think that's definitely going to be a risk roll. So who's doing the actual lighting?
I'll do the actual lighting. It was my bad idea.
Okay. So Akela, do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment? Oh, before we go any further, so your objective is to like catch this, basically burn this field down. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. What are you afraid might happen if things don't go right?
That will wind up, well, there'll be some kind of weird corn, like vegetative type monster experience happening. We'll be in danger from like whatever is wrong with that corn.
Okay, so you're worried about some kind of a monster. Got it. Disturb. Okay, cool.
Can I mention one other fear that my character has?
Please.
So the legends of this land are that its primary saint was Saint Hester, the goddess of the harvest, and we're about to burn an entire field of corn right after it's finally come back from recovering from the curse she laid upon the land. She might not be happy with us burning a field of corn.
True, although this corn, although the corn on the husks, they're
They're corrupted. Yep.
This corn ain't right.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, Akela, do you have any relevant skills or pieces of equipment, or are you using the environment in some way to assist you?
Well, all we have is, we're on a road and there's some corn and some bushes and things like that, right? Just like kind of like farmlandish kind of. I don't think there's anything in the land that I could use.
I did say that the corn is. I did say that it's been dry and the corn stalks are pretty dry. So I'm going to say I'm going to say the dry. You can take advantage of the dry corn. So you can take a light die for that.
And I just roll one because I don't have any. I have focus as a skill. Would that count?
Not sure that would really count here, unless you can give me a really good argument. But I'm going to give you the light die for skills or environment, just because you are taking advantage of the environment. So you can take one light die.
Okay.
The next question, and this is something I glossed over at the beginning, since we are now doing a risk roll, let's talk about Devil's Bargains. So Devil's Bargain is, and I can pose it, other players can pose it. This is a way to this is kind of like the magic of what makes Trophy Gold work. So a Devil's Bargain is something that you agree is going to happen in the story, regardless of the result of the roll. And the example that I like to give is, so you need to do a risk roll to jump across a wide chasm. A possible devil's bargain for that is you drop in the jump, you lose your sword and you drop your sword into the ravine. Dropping your sword into the ravine doesn't have any direct implication as to whether you are successful or whether jumping across the ravine is success or failure. Regardless of what you do, you're going to lose the sword. And if you accept that bargain, you would get another light die. An example of a devil's bargain in that situation that isn't going to work is, well, I get across, but I'm hanging from the edge. That's not really an appropriate devil's bargain because that's dictating what the result of the actual action is going to be. So devil's bargain has to be something that's related, but it's not directly, that's going to happen regardless of how the roll goes. So I'm going to offer a devil's bargain here, and that devil's bargain is that this field goes up like gangbusters, and to the point where it starts. You're basically starting lighting this field on fire is going to start a major brush fire that's going to burn not just this field, but like a lot of the brush and the other the other grounds around you, and that might actually pose a bit of a danger to you.
No, I'm good. That sounds like a bad deal, so I'll pass on that.
Okay, And if anyone else has, okay, yeah, that's the thing with a devil's bargain. You can accept or reject, or you could modify it in some way. And if it's acceptable to the players, we can go with that.
How about a devil's bargain where you're going to light the thing on fire? You'll likely succeed since it's so dry. But then one of those corrupt tendrils is going to whip out, grab an ankle, and you're going to hear a demonic voice that says, "Come inside."
No, I don't want to get dragged by a demonic tendril, but thanks. I'll just play it safe.
Okay, well then, go ahead and roll a light die and let's see what happens.
6.
Nice. Okay, you light a controlled fire that burns this that burns this shield down. Why don't you tell us what that looks like?
Muted. Estefan and I approach the field like we kind of approach it to a corner of the field. I look back at him, and I light the torch up, and I lean forward and kind of gingerly put the torch to like the closest piece, area of corn, and it catches pretty quickly. But it almost burns it almost burns too fast. So I have to kind of not run around the whole perimeter, but run back and forth, making sure that it stays lit. And then finally it catches, and then, however long it takes for a big ass fire to get going, then, you guys want to hang out and watch it burn, or you want to head out?
Popcorn.
Oh, yeah. No, we're on a clock, and I don't like being this far away from city walls anyhow.
All right, let's keep it moving.
That stone structure over there, maybe stone, you guys see what I see? Then I'm pointing at like that sort of overgrown thing that Mike said might be.
Yeah,
that's the closest thing to the hand of man I can see out here. I vote we go there next.
Sounds good to me. Let's do
Lay
it.
down.
All right,
Okay.
I'll happily take the lead on this. I've actually
Awesome.
got some things that are relevant.
You proceed down the road. As you proceed down the road down this like overgrown. I mean, you could tell it was once a road, but it's terribly overgrown. There's it wasn't cobblestone, but there's definitely there's weeds growing up. At some point, you come to what is clearly before you get to this stone outcropping that as you approach it, it does look more and more like the remains of a small keep that's kind of half collapsed. As you approach, and this overgrown road seems to be going more or less directly in that direction, you come across what at first you thought was like some scrubby trees, but as you approach, you realize that there's a vine-covered stone statue. It's kind of like it's like standing right by the crossroads of two overgrown former roads. The statue is, as you approach, the vine-covered statue it's made of stone. It's roughly life-size, maybe a little larger. It stands on a plinth. And it's a statue of a man with his arms crossed. And in a similar manner to how Saint Hester herself is usually presented. However, this statue is it's almost a crude parody of how Hester would be depicted. Hester is normally depicted arms crossed over her chest, a sickle in one hand, and a cornucopia in the other. This man is posed in much the same way, with a sickle in one hand, except the sickle is held backwards, and in the hand that should have the cornucopia, it's holding a sword. What do you do?
That ain't right. That's mocking the sisters. That's just bad luck.
Is all this stuff that we learned about the king common knowledge, like we all know it, like we learned it in school or whatever?
This is the history you know. The background I gave you, you all know that. You either, it's the common knowledge history of this area.
Right. All right. So I would safely assume it's the that king, correct?
Probably safe to assume. It's probably safe to assume that this was Lord Galdrin. Are you examining the statue to try to figure that out, or are you doing something else?
Yeah. Yeah, I have focus. Would that help me? Or no? It's more like general history knowledge.
Well, I mean, the way skills work in this game is if they come into play for hunt rolls and risk rolls.
Oh, okay, got it.
That's pretty much if it seems otherwise, if it seems like something that you could do and there's not a risk, then yeah, then you have a certain amount of narrative control. Like, for example, if you've got if you have an agriculture skill and you want to oh, is this plant edible? I'd probably just say yes. Whereas if you didn't,
okay.
So again, the skills are intended to be, they're generic. They're a way to just kind of they give you a certain amount of fictional positioning.
I don't know. I mean, do you guys want to spend any time looking at this thing? It seems pretty straightforward. We're like, oh, it's the king,
Yeah, actually, I think, Estefan, I'm giving you guys time to stop me if you want, but I'm sheathing my sword and limbering. I'm going to knock this thing over. We can't just leave this here.
You're trying to knock the statue over. Awesome.
Yeah, Estefan's a little bit religious, I think.
Estefan, perhaps I can help. If we take the vines off of the statue, perhaps we can fashion them into a crude rope and lever the thing down a little bit easier.
Good. That's good. That's using your sister's gifts to repay her the mockery against her. I like that. I
love it. Okay, so it sounds like you are using. Okay, this is definitely going to be a risk roll because there's things could not turn out so well. So you are using the vines as levers. So I'm going to give you a light die for taking advantage of the environment there. What are you afraid of might happen? What are you afraid might happen if things don't go right?
I'm afraid I'm going to pull this thing down on top of me.
That's kind of what I was going for. Anyone want to entertain any devil's bargains? I will pose one, and that is, regardless of how successful you are, you disturb the ground such that some kind of burrowing animal is destroyed and is disturbed and is not happy about it.
I will take that devil's bargain. I don't understand wildlife particularly, so.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so you've got two light dice.
All right. Is that two? Sorry. So, right, it's a risk roll, right?
Yeah, this is a risk roll. So you got two light dice. So you can highlight them both and click re-roll.
High roll is a 3.
High roll is a 3. Okay, that's not so hot. If you so that is going to be a failure and something bad happens. If you would like, you can re-roll this by adding a dark die.
I will take one shot at that.
So a couple of things about so when you add the dark die, if the dark die is highest, you can't re-roll again. Also, if the dark die is highest, that also means you need to compare the number on the dark die to your ruin score, and if it is higher than your ruin score, your ruin goes up.
You know what? I don't need the additional ruin this early. I will suck down whatever the consequence is.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to say that. So you're trying to pull the. So I think that. Yeah, you fashion you fashion a harness or a sling with these vines, and you are, rocking it back and forth a little bit, but these vines aren't nearly as tough as you thought. And every time you give like a good pull, the vines, the statue like leans forward a little bit, but the vines ultimately snap. And you try it again, and you do the same thing, and again the vines snap. And as you're doing it a third time, you realize that your hands are getting really itchy.
Nice.
And you do it another time, and at this point you realize that the palms of your hands are super duper itchy, and to the point where it's almost painful. Your hands and the palms of your hands and basically all of your exposed skin is suddenly raising up with painfully itchy red welts. It looks like these vines that you used are causing some kind of severe reaction on your skin. You now have the condition severe poison ivy.
Boo.
Oh man. Yeah, Estefan just swears and stumbles back. Goddamn plants. Goddamn village.
And kind of at the same time as you're staggering back, as you're staggering back from this, you notice there's something moving in the grass, like right underneath where that statue was. And as you look, it looks like there's a whole bunch of snakes. Like you may have disturbed a nest of snakes that was under this, and they're like moving towards you. What do you do?
So
Quickly, the torch. Let's burn them back. Can we try to intimidate the snakes back with a lit torch? Indiana Jones style?
Could probably intimidate them more with a maul. I have a maul. I mean, we're kind of putting your hand next to the snake with no recourse other than if they're not scared, they'll bite you. So
what is your goal here? You're trying to scare the snakes away, or you're trying to actually smash enough of are you trying to actually kill a bunch of snakes? What's your goal? I'm trying to figure out if this is going to be a risk roll, or if we're entering combat for the first time.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a combat because I don't really see that I'm trying to scare them off. I don't know, or not scare them off, but I'm trying to just
Well, that's the nature of my question. Are you trying to scare them off? Are you trying to get away from them? Are you trying to flat out kill them?
I guess I guess scare them off.
Okay. I guess that's going to be a risk roll.
Okay.
So you are using a weapon. So it sounds like you can take a light die for using a piece of the environment.
Can I ask a question? Is there grass around here?
There is grass around here.
Is it also dry? Because I've got this torch. I mean, if it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I could use a torch and set the grass on fire.
It's probably not as flammable as those dry corn stalks, but you could probably light that on fire.
All right, I'll do that instead.
Okay, you
Can I
fire.
add something?
Yeah.
Sure.
My character started with a bottle of fine wine in his backpack. Can I pour out some of the wine so that he can flambe the grass, make it a little bit more spectacular?
Wine isn't exactly flammable. If you had brandy, if you had brandy or whiskey, that kind of is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm gonna say that wine isn't exactly flammable.
Okay.
In fact, you could probably put out a fire with wine. Although that sounds like a waste of perfectly good wine.
All right. Well, the torch worked last time, so give it the old college try.
Okay, are you willing to entertain a devil's bargain?
Nah, I don't think I want to get bit by snakes.
Okay, well, that's okay.
I mean, why don't you give me the devil's bargain? I'll tell you if I want to go for it, I guess.
Got it. The devil's bar. Here's one. How do I want to put this? As you so here's the devil's bargain. As you're trying to scare most of the snakes off, two of the snakes approach and basically climb up your leg.
Nah, I'll just go for the regular.
Okay.
Too early in the game.
Anyone can, and again, anyone can pose the devil's bargains. It's not just the GM. But okay, well in that case, go ahead and roll a die. Let's see what happens.
And it's just one light die, right?
It's gonna be one light. Yeah, it's gonna be one light die.
3.
Okay. That's gonna be a fail, which means the situation is gonna get worse. You may add a dark die and re-roll.
And then I have to beat the light die with the dark die, or I take damage.
So on a risk roll, if you add a dark die and re-roll, again, we're just looking for the success or failure is going to be based on the highest number you roll. If the highest number comes up on the dark die, you'll then compare that number to your ruin score. And if it is higher than your ruin score, your ruin goes up by 1.
Oh, so if my ruin is whatever my ruin is, it's currently 3. So if it's
So if you roll a 4 or higher on the dark die, that will be a success, but your ruin's going to go up.
all right, I'll do that. Nope. Oh well. So I get 1 more ruin, but I win. Like I burn all the snakes away.
Yeah. So So a 4 is a mixed success. That's like a 7 to 9 in Powered by the Apocalypse. You successfully. I'm going to say that you successfully get most of the you scare off most of the snakes. This is going to be perfect. You scare off most of the snakes, but one of them does strike you. It's painful. It burns a bit. I'm not going to give you a condition, but that's you scare off most of the snakes, but you did get bitten by a snake. It doesn't look like it was venomous.
Oh, good.
Or is it? Kind of hard to say, but that's how I'm justifying your ruin going up by 1.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you have scared the snakes away. Okay. Anything else you want to do with this statue, or do anything else, or is there anything else? Well, at this point, like, what do you do?
So those snakes were in some sort of a nest in the grass. Because
You're like,
snakes usually find somewhere, some kind of little hole or hovel to huddle into. I'm going to try and look around and see if there's maybe some sort of a, I don't know, a rift or a crack or something running underneath the statue. See if there's maybe a hollow underneath the statue.
okay, you are definitely doing a hunt roll here. So take a light die for exploring the world. If you have, do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment that you're using to examine here?
Um,
I'm not seeing a skill.
no.
If you want to say you've got a piece of equipment, you can use one of your you can use one. You can basically say that you've had something all along, but you can poke around your backpack to see if you've got something that's relevant. I know crowbar, for example, is on the list.
No, that's all right. I'm just going to roll the one light die.
Okay.
All right. So let me grab that. Why is this not rolling?
That's that one that's between the two. Yeah, so you
So-
click it. You click it so it turns red, and then you click the re-roll selected button, and that should roll it.
So I've clicked it. It's red. And I'm hitting roll selected, and I'm not getting anything.
Well, that's weird. Like I said, I used to really like Roll for Your Party, but it's been wonky recently.
Let me see if I can try and grab another die here.
Yeah, why don't you try and grab another die? Yeah, when you hit re-roll, the graphic should cause the dice to kind of spin around.
For some reason, it's not rolling. I don't know what the problem is here.
Got it.
Um,
If you don't mind, I'll try. I'm going to move this one up here. I'm going to try rolling it just to see what happens. Okay, that one rolled for me. It went from a 3 to a 6.
What browser are you using?
I'm using Firefox.
I'm just using Internet Explorer.
It might not work. Do you have Chrome or something?
I do have Chrome. Let me see if I can try and open this there.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't. A lot of like stuff doesn't support IE anymore. I do web nerdery for the day. Sorry.
Let me go. Let me put that into my browser here. Okay, so I've got it pulled up. Let me select a die, and I'm going to re-roll it. And there we go. Okay, I've got a 3.
Yeah, it was probably IE. Okay, cool. Okay, so a 3 means things get worse for you.
Yikes.
I'm gonna say so how are you trying to do this? What were you poking around with?
So I was going to take the butt of my great axe, kind of root down into where the snakes were, and then try to brush some of the undergrowth aside and see if there's any way down underneath the statue at all.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So you were using your you were kind of using your axe. So
Can I use a light die for that?
I was going to say that basically is that basically wasn't the light die. I'm sorry. That was
okay.
I'm sorry. This was a risk roll. I'm sorry. This was a hunt roll. Yeah, I was going to say you can add another light die for that because you're using a piece of equipment. So we're going to keep the 3. Go ahead and grab another one of the light dice and roll that one as well.
Okay.
Or just roll another light die. Since you're using a tool, that should have been 2 light dice. That should have been 2 light dice on the hunt roll.
I got another 3.
Another 3. Okay.
Because that's who I am.
That's who we all are. I mean, I think we've been rolling steady 3s since the burning the cornfield.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
It's been pretty
okay.
consistent.
So on a 3, on a hunt roll, you encounter something terrible. So you're poking down in there with the handle of your great axe, and you're kind of like, and yeah, you do find that there's a like right at the base of this plinth, you do see that there's a little bit of a hole that you think that's probably where the snakes came out of. You jam your axe in there and you like wiggle it around a little bit, and you hit something squishy. And as you pull the axe out, the end of your axe is like dripping with something like black. It's dripping with this like black, really like this black liquid, and that's when the smell hits you. It's like the smell of death.
Lovely.
Yeah, there was, there was like something buried that's very, very dead in there, and now your axe handle is like kind of covered in it.
Pull my cloak around the front of my face and back off and tell my comrades to back away. Kind of fling the grossness out into the grass. Ugh.
Yeah, it's that smell is that smell is something pretty awful.
As a merchant, could I have like a rag or something like that on me that I could just pass them so we can clean it off?
Absolutely.
I get to work cleaning off the haft of my axe. Ugh.
Ew.
Okay, we've tried tearing the statue down. We've tried digging out underneath the statue. Perhaps it is the saint's will that this mockery be left in place.
Yeah, I got bit by I'm not a big fan of this spot. Why don't we keep moving? I think we should keep moving.
Well, one other thing that we need to consider, I don't suppose this giant stone building is Hester's Mill. So I'm wondering if we can use the statue in some way as a landmark to find our eventual goal.
You're pretty sure that Hester's Mill is it's alleged to be a town, and this looks like the ruins of a keep.
Do we know anything about this land, what they would use to mark their roads? Would they have road signs or waystones or anything like that?
I'm guessing they probably would have used waystones. You know, there might have been signs. I mean, it's possible there might have been signs, but if they were wooden signs on wooden posts, this place has been abandoned for 100 years, so that probably wouldn't still. Those probably wouldn't still be standing. But yeah, there may be they may have used piles of waystones. That's what they use in other parts of the land.
Well, I'm going to try and search around the plinth to see if there's any indicator on the plinth or the ground around the plinth that might have indicated, I don't know, some sort of writing, some sort of indicator of direction, or
Okay.
something that would indicate where Hester's Mill is from here.
Okay. Sure. This is definitely going to be another hunt roll. So take a light die for interacting with the world. Do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment that you're using here to try to figure this out?
No, I do not, unless I don't suppose clearing away more brush with the axe would count as a
Interacting with the
relevant
environment.
item.
Go on.
Now, before we go ahead with this, I have a ritual called Guide, which creates a golden thread to follow. Can I cast that to go to the, what do you call it, to the mill?
Guide. Ooh, I like it.
That way you don't have to endanger yourself anymore, and we can get cut to the quick, you know?
You don't want the statue to just fall over on top of me in a one?
Not yet. On the way back.
Yeah.
If you want to use the guide ritual, let's see. The guide ritual, create a golden thread to follow. Sure. Yeah. If you want to use a ritual, that would actually. I'm going to say yeah. If you use the guide ritual and it's successful, I'm going to say that's going to point you to the road through Hester's Mill.
Okay, great. So what do I do for that? Is it a light die?
So casting a ritual using a ritual that is indeed a so a ritual is a risk roll. So again, so you must add a dark die because magic is dangerous. Do you have a relevant skill? Do you have a relevant skill for using this particular ritual? Now, some people have rituals as a skill, which would allow you to take a light die for casting any rituals. I do see that since you're seeking guidance, I do see that you have omens as your. I do see that you have omens as a skill, and I'm going to say that omens would definitely help you here.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does that mean in general for a skill? I mean, it gives me an advantage, right?
Yeah. So if you have a relevant skill that would help you in what you're doing, that basically you're going to get an extra light die.
Great.
So you've got a skill. So you've got a relevant skill, so you can get a light die. You must use a dark die on a risk roll when you're using a ritual. So you've got one light, one dark, and finally, to get a second light die, are you willing to accept a devil's bargain? And if so,
what's the advantage of doing the devil's bargain?
Well, accepting a devil's bargain will give you another light die to roll in this roll.
Oh, so it's not like it's a guarantee that it'll happen?
It's a guarantee that whatever the devil's bargain is going to, whatever you agree to in the devil's bargain will happen.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
But that gives you an extra light die on your. That'll give you an extra light die on your ritual.
What's the devil's bargain?
Well, this is magic. Let's see. I'm looking for guidance. How's this for a devil's bargain? You attract the attention of, like, you magically attract the attention of a spirit that may be hanging around you for a while.
So what's the deal with spirits? I've seen them mentioned in the, like, you can put them in a bottle or whatever. What's the, is it just a jinx?
I'm imagining that the spirits are, they could be ghosts. They could be, they're kind of like, it's kind of like, some kind of a super, they're not really defined in the world. It kind of like means what you want it. It kind of means what we decide it means. But I was thinking that you attract the attention of basically a spirit, like a disembodied supernatural entity. And again, I haven't defined what this is, but that's just going to mean that we've got another interesting fictional element that we can play with.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Okay. So you have 2 light dice and a dark die.
Wait, don't I already have 2 light because of the omen? So I'd have 3 dice, wouldn't I?
No, you don't.
I'm sorry.
In a hunt roll, in a risk roll, you don't automatically get any dice for doing it. So you get 1 light die. You're getting a light die for having the skill. You're getting another light die for the devil's bargain, and you're getting a dark die for it being a ritual.
So the omen doesn't help? Doesn't give me any added bonus?
If you didn't have the omen, you wouldn't be getting the light die in the first place.
Oh, it would just be a dark die?
It would just be a dark die and or a devil's bargain.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure, I'll take that deal.
Okay. So roll 2 light, 1 dark.
It sucks.
Well, it doesn't suck because it goes off without a hitch.
Oh, okay. Great.
The 6 dark means, you rolled a 6, so so the ritual goes off without a hitch. However, that does increase your ruin. So why don't you tell us? So yeah, the spell points you directly to points you directly to the road to Hester's mill. Why don't you tell us what casting this ritual looks like?
What does it look like?
Yeah, what do the viewers at home see when you're performing this ritual?
Well, I grab some dirt and I make a protective circle that I stand in. And out of my pocket, I pull just a regular ball of string, and then, I like kind of cup it in my hands and I whisper into it. And then I have the end of the string in my hand, but I throw it. So like I've still got the end of the string in my hand, but it just starts unraveling. And then maybe it turns gold and then flies off, like what do you call it? In Quidditch, the snitch, what I mean? Like it flies off like animatedly.
Cool.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Estefan's been like bandaging his hands and like swearing under his breath. There's this little, like, if you're watching him, there's this shock of recognition when you do that ritual, like just for a moment, but definitely there. Like that bugged him.
It bugged him?
Yep.
Are you like a barbarian, like no magic, cold iron guy?
No. He got he got nailed for stealing that particular ritual.
Oh. Got it.
But yeah, he doesn't say anything. And feel free to ask him, of course.
Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to say, as you do this, you get you just hear this whisper in your ear. And the whispering says, "Looking for Hester's mill, are you? You'll find more than you bargained for there." And hearing this, and just hearing this disembodied voice, just kind of like chills you to the bone. It's like very disconcerting. And I'm going to say
this
that
something like common knowledge in the culture? Like, do people know that, yeah, you can get jinxed by spirits?
Oh yeah, spirit. I mean, spirits are spirits are generally a force unto themselves. Some of them are benevolent. Some of them are benevolent and will help you. Others are less so. Some of them wish to like feed upon your soul. Others are just kind of neutral. They, you do something for them, they might do something for you.
Right. All right, I look to the guys and I'm like, shit, we got a spook.
Perhaps do you know of some omen or some ritual that can uncouple us from this poltergeist?
Nope. No such luck. It's like we have a new party member.
You hear a voice whisper into your ear, "You can't get rid of me that easily."
Nope, he's here to stay.
Okay, so you have found the road to Hester's Mill. Just looking at time, we're a little past where I intended to break, so why don't we take a 5-minute break? We'll reconvene. We'll go a little farther down. We'll go a little farther. We'll go a bit down the road to Hester's Mill. I don't think we'll probably not finish that set before we're at time, but we'll go as far as we can. And yeah, so I got 20 past. Why don't we come back at 25 after?
Sounds good.
And we're back. So as Akela's magical ritual points out the road to Hester's Mill, you all get up to head down that path, and as soon as you see it, it's actually obvious now. It's yet another one of these terribly overgrown roads. But as you step onto this road, a gust of wind blows by, and it just collects a whole bunch of leaves into like one of those little dust devils, and just this whole bunch of leaves are just kind of like swirling around you. Feels a little surreal. And Abe asked in chat, what is the Omen skill good for? So omens are signs and portents of what may occur in the future. So
I could do an omen right before we go in the dungeon to see what was up.
Well, again, skills most. I mean, you could certainly try to do something like that. Again, omens are mostly skills are mostly used to
for rolls.
Yeah, you mostly use skills when you're taking either risk or hunt rolls, and if they would be depending what you're doing, if having the skill would help you, it'll get you an extra die.
Got it. Okay, so just basically, if I can rationalize it in the fiction, I can get an extra light die out of it.
That's basically what they're for. I mean, if it makes sense otherwise, that if you have a skill, and if having a relevant skill would mean that you would just kind of it would also might mean that you kind of automatically notice or automatically know something if it's fictionally appropriate.
So if we go into combat, can I go, I want to do an omen, and then get an idea of what's going to go down in combat?
Interesting. I never really thought about that. So combat works a little differently, and I was going to explain that when we actually get into combat. It uses kind of a very different mechanic than either the hunt or the risk roll. I don't want to get into it now. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about how combat works when we actually get into combat. I think it's a fascinating combat mechanic. So you head down so the three of you head down this overgrown road. It's easy to follow. The grass is, I mean, again, it's overgrown, but the grass is, it's mostly just kind of like scrubby grass, as opposed to the more substantial brush and weeds that are on the sides.
As we travel,
yes.
As we travel, I'm going to use my great axe to lop off, a fairly substantial long tree branch, or maybe a sapling or something, something I can use for yield 10-foot pole. And then not only am I going to lop that down, but if we've got a lengthy time to travel, choke up on the axe real hard so that I'm basically holding the head of the axe, and scrape or shave down one end of it. Not so I'm making a spear, but rather so I'm making like a broad, flat digging point, so that one end of the stick is for poking, the other end is for digging, or maybe to jam into something and use as a lever, a one-time lever before the thing breaks.
Okay. So first of all, sure, you can. Yeah, there's enough like saplings and trees and whatnot that you can. Yeah, you can harvest a 10-foot pole. Go ahead and add 10-foot pole to found equipment.
Okay.
Because you didn't find that in your backpack, you found this on your adventuring, and so yeah, go ahead. You now have a 10-foot pole. Sure, yeah, you can do that with your axe, with the haft of your axe. So that kind of makes it into a little bit more of a multi-tool. Yeah, as you head down the path, you do see to the next. You do see again these overgrown agricultural fields. You pass a patch of like squash or maybe pumpkins that are actually quite large. Like these large pumpkin, a patch of large pumpkins in various colors, like green and yellow and orange and purple. So as you head down the road, road goes up a hill. The road goes up a hill to the point where, let me just see here. And you're kind of like standing on a bit of a ridge, and you're looking down into kind of the next valley. And you think that, this looks like it would be the perfect place to build a village. You can kind of see a bunch of areas ahead. In fact, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. You are now in the next set. The set is called The Road to Hester's Mill. And the goal of the set is to learn the secret history of Hester's Mill. So as you're standing on this ridge, you can see you actually see a number of places that look ripe for exploration. So to the north, where this overgrown road is leading right to, there is clearly an abandoned village. There's like looking there. There's there's a few like collapsed buildings. There's some overgrown stone. There's some like there's some like stone fences. You need to get there in order to explore it more, but that's clearly a ruined village in that direction. North of that, there seems to be a let's see. sure I got everything here. What am I missing? What am I missing? Yeah, north of that, there's a, actually closer, there's a, looks like there's a, like just off the road, off to the left of the road, as you go into Hester's, as you go into the ruined village, it looks like there's a small shrine, the kind of small shrines that you see next to many roads. South of the village, there is a hill that seems to have that has a very large tree growing at the top, with like one branch that's coming off of the tree almost exactly parallel to the ground. Kind of hard to tell by scale, but it looks like it's at least 20 feet off the ground. And finally, east of the village, you do actually see a little bit of smoke, like as if from a campfire. It looks like there's some kind of a campsite over there. Okay. So
There's like people camping there, like, you know, like a spot for new campers, or this is like ancient?
It's it looks like there is somebody camping. Again, it's down the road. It's off to the left of the road, like, you know, and you can see like a little bit of smoke coming from a campfire that it looks like someone who knows how to make a campfire that doesn't throw off a lot of smoke, which is probably why you didn't see it from over the other hill. But now that you're here, it looks like there's somebody camping there. Looks like you can see a little bit of a tent. It looks fairly recent.
Do we actually smell the smoke or just see it?
It's far enough away that you pretty much just see it.
Okay.
I'm guessing I'm going to say that you're probably upwind of it. I will also say that it's starting to get late. It's getting late in the afternoon. You've probably only got another hour or so of daylight. You're probably going to want to try to find someplace to camp soon.
Why don't we go? I mean, let's go check out that campsite just to make sure, you know, there's no clear and present danger.
Perhaps we could approach it with a degree of stealth. I myself am at least skilled in the art of stealth, although I'm wearing breastplate armor, but I can attempt to get a little bit closer to it without making any noise and scout the area, see if there's somebody.
Right. If it's people, I'd rather camp for the night and let them, you know, give them the chance to pass. Better not to interact with anybody foolish enough to be out here.
Well, what if they stab us to death when we're sleeping?
We'll keep guard. Sorry, you're a merchant. You haven't done a lot of this. We'll take watches.
Okay, so is the plan Orland's going to sneak in to try to get a better sense of the situation? You can all walk, or you're all going to walk there? How do you want to approach this?
I have
Orland,
no stealthy skills, so
if you think the breastplate's going to be
there.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to stealth up there, but I'm going to let you guys know that my character's carrying a whistle with him. So I'm going to try to stealth over there, get close enough where I can actually see into the camp, take a good look around, see if I can see anything of interest or anything. But if I get into danger while I get up there, I'm going to blow this whistle. So if you hear this sound, come running.
I actually might be able to pull some kind of. Let me come up with you. I actually have a game plan. I have the skill of convincing. I have a bag of fool's gold and a pickaxe. So I might be able to dupe him into thinking that I'd like, hey, I just scored some gold or something like that. And I have all the props for it. And then, if we need to, if it's no problem, then I'll just stand there.
All right. I'm going to hang back from you two then and be as stealthy as I can be. So that if it does go wrong, they're not expecting the third man to come in. Also, it'll let me watch our backs in case there's something behind us.
Sounds good.
I love it. So I think Orland is leading the stealthy entrance. So so you clearly have the stealth skills. So you may take a light die. Are you willing to entertain a devil's bargain?
How about as a devil's bargain? I'm going to move up. I'm going to move up there, potentially getting a better chance to stealth up there. But in the process, my movement toward the area would cause I don't know, perhaps some sort of disturbance on the road as I initially start out. So maybe not right at the side of the camp, but they might see, crows in the distance rise up or something.
Okay, that's pretty close to what I was going to pose. The bargain I was thinking of would be, regardless of who or whatever is in the camp, you do attract the attention of something else entirely.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, so you have a dark die. I'm sorry, so you have 2 light dice. So why don't you go ahead and roll those?
Four and a 5.
Awesome. Got a 5. Cool. Okay. Yeah, why don't you describe why don't you describe your approach? And I'm going to say that there is as you approach, you can tell that there is that in this campsite there is a man. He's kind of like humming to himself, and it looks like he's got like a big hunting knife, and he's honing the knife.
Okay.
I'll tell you, he does not see you. So what do the viewers at home see as you approach this camp?
So Orland drops low and begins moving up stealthily as he can amid the overgrowth on either side of the trail, trying to use the underbrush as he goes. Now he's also got a skill with misdirection. So as he gets close enough, he sort of tosses some rocks to the side just to make sure that he's not seen by the man, which might also be the devil's bargain of attracting attention from something else. But to make sure that the man is looking in the wrong direction, he's going to then dart to a position where once he's in position, he can be close enough to observe the man from behind maybe a blind or a low hedge or something. But if he needs to be in combat, he can rush the man if he needs to.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you toss a stone to the side as you're creeping in, and you do find a place where it's like between a small boulder and some brushes and some brush, you can, yeah, it looks like it's a really good place to hide so you can observe this guy. Thing was, when you toss that, you did toss a stone to the sides to try to like get the guy not to look in that direction, which he does. At the same time, a black bird, like a crow, like flies out of the underbrush, and it's you notice that this crow is more or less just kind of like soaring, circling more or less above you, not exactly above you, but there's but yeah, there's this crow that's circling in the air, a good 20, 30 feet above you. I mean, it doesn't seem to be giving your position away, but it's a little weird. Anyway, yeah, there's a so observing. So this is a very simple camp. There's a tent. I mean, there's a canvas tent. Looks like it's been. No, it's not canvas. There's an oilcloth tent. Keep the rain out. There's a bedroll in the tent. There's a small. He's built a small fire ring out of stones. There's a small campfire that's at this point just more smoldering than anything else. And there's a man there. He's lean. He's rangy. He's got a hard look. He's got a hard look in his eye. He's got a long beard, kind of shoulder-length hair that's brown but streaked with gray. And he's wearing looks like he's wearing like hand-sewn leather clothes. This is certainly not something that a tailor would have made for him. Looks like he's wearing like hand-sewn deerskin, like hand-sewn deerskin tunic and leather breeches. He also looks like he's wearing leather moccasins or leather or loose-fitting leather shoes. But yeah, he's also got a whetstone, and he's honing this big honing a big single-bladed hunting knife.
Does his skin appear to be weathered and worn? Like he's been out in the rain?
Yeah, it looks like he's been out here in the. I'm going to say, yeah, it looks like he's been outdoors for quite a while. Oh, and another thing that you see from your position is inside his tent is a suit of chainmail.
One last question: is the bird close enough to notice? Does it have any what do they call them? Like fetching, I think is what it is, around the ankles or anything? Any sort of gear that would denote that this thing is some sort of a trained bird or a pet or something?
I'm going to say no. It looks like it looks like a crow or big crow. It's probably too small to be a raven.
Okay.
But picking up a stone. I'm not going to throw it yet, but I want to have it handy.
Okay. I am looking at the time, and we've got about and it's 9 minutes before the hour, so I'm okay with leaving it here with you observing this guy, and we can pick it up here next time.
Fine with me.
I kind of did the semi-cliffhanger.
Yeah, I was hoping for a cliffhanger with a little more pizzazz, like he suddenly noticed you, but but yeah, you look up and
this is pretty.
Oh, I'm gonna say, oh, I got it. So you look up at this crow to see if it's got like see if it's got a collar or a band on its leg, and you don't. But as it circles, it stops and like flaps. It doesn't quite hover. But it suddenly changes direction, and it hangs in the air a little bit, and it looks right at you. and so the camera like looks up at the bird and zooms in on its eye, and we can see your reflection in this bird's eye, and that's where we're going to leave it.
That's awesome.
So that was this is first session. So this is our first session of Trophy Gold. We've got 2 more to go. I really enjoyed this, folks. We're going to do a little debrief and feedback session called Stars and Wishes. Stars are things that you liked about the game, or like things that other players had done. Wishes are things that you hope to see next time. Mine are going to be pretty general. I mean, Stars. I really like these characters. I think they have a whole lot of potential. We haven't, I think we're. I think you guys have each of you have definitely Trophy Gold characters. They are paper thin, and I think you've all done a really good job of infusing them with a good degree of personality. I'm hoping we're I'm really enjoying that. And Wishes, I'm hoping that we're going to learn more about these characters next time. I'm really eager to see what makes these characters tick.
Well, my stars would be Mike. I think you did a really great job setting scenes, and your description and narration is excellent, on point. So thank you for that. I think if I have any wishes, weirdly, I hope we get into a little bit more combat.
Combat in Trophy Gold is fascinating. It's a really interesting mechanic, and I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much, but combats are fun.
Combat looks fun.
Are you saying you're going to win at the end?
What is winning? Star to Mark. I really dug the fear of the goddess stuff, like playing into like that stuff, which I thought that was a really super cool thing, even if it didn't happen to manifest in that way. Star to Mike. I know this is a Gauntlet thing. I know it's the culture, but like I'm new enough to it. Like having the safety stuff emphasized so much is really nice, right? Like, yes, this doesn't feel like a group that was going to trip over it, but I still really appreciate it. So definite star there, even though it's a normal thing to do. I think it's worth recognizing. Star to Abe, like, thank you for giving my currently paper thin character like stuff to play off in the merchant thing and the bodyguarding thing. Like, I like that. That feels like the thread that like I'm gonna keep pulling on to develop like the substance to my character. And then wishes wise, like I'm right there with Mike, right? Like I didn't really totally feel my groove this session, but I'm looking forward to sort of continuing to iterate on it and figure out like who the hell this guy is. And this feels like a great group to do that with.
All right, for my stars and wishes, thank you, Mike, for running the game. It's interesting. I just wanted to check out Trophy Gold. I generally don't like fantasy settings. However, I thought you did a really good job of bringing out, like, I just think they can be a little dull. It's like the same tropes over and over again. And I thought you really kind of brought the whole, even like, talking about the landscape, you really brought it to life in a way that I thought was interesting. And I haven't really heard that much before. It was interesting, just kind of like, because I know like this is the opener where we're going to trudge around till we find the place we find. Mark, I really appreciated your character. I really liked the stealth aspect of it. Like you really kind of played into that, and that was great. Bryant, I also appreciate that we have like a bond that goes beyond paper thin characters. Like I am a fighter. I am here because I'm a fighter. I think, as far as wishes, I'm pretty open. I'm generally after the first one, I'm kind of like, all right, that was cool. What's next? Like it's like I totally didn't feel like I had my character dialed in at all. You know, as Bryant said, it's going to take like, you know, it usually takes me the whole first session before like I get like the groove in. So, you know, I'm open to whatever's happening. I hear some cool combats coming. I'm interested in checking out the mechanics of it because you were talking about it so approvingly. So that'll be cool. And I don't know. I'm happy to be here. And and thank you again, Mike. This has been a fantastic distraction. So, you know, I can continue. I'm going to go back to playing video games until I decide to pull my head out of the sand.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for all the praise. I'm not sure if I deserve it, but absolutely thank you. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. So cool. I guess I will see you all this time next week. Before I close, it is okay if I post this video publicly?
Yep, definitely.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, folks. Have a great evening, and I will see you all next week.
See you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See y'all.
Bye.